Mr. Susheel Gajwani and Miss Menka Shivdasani, please podium te achan. A big round of applause for them.
Listening to the inspiring stories today of Mr. Israni and Mr. Hiranandani, Mrs. Maya Shahani and Kishu Manchkani, I'm reminded of a poem, and I want to quote few lines of that poem in reference to Mr. Israni's achievements here. The part of the poem it's by Nandal Javeri. It says, "With blessings and courage, I picked up a chabo, a basket. From a chabo to a pidi, from a basket to a roadside spread, from a pidi to a hatdi, from a roadside spread to a shoplet, and from a hatdi to a hut, from a shoplet to a shop. With that shop, I built schools, colleges, and many hospitals." For example, HSNC University. Congratulations, sir. Wadhayu taman sabni ke. Krishan Rahi, सिंधी जा एक तमाम मुअज़्ज़िज़ पोएट हैं, तमाम कमाल जा पोएट हैं। उन्हनि कुछ लाइन्स लिखियूं आहिनि जेके हर सिंधी जी दिल खे टच कंदा. They'll move you, they'll touch you. And Indian Krishan Rahi जी पोएट्री खे English anthology में भी Freedom and Fishes में भी translate किया. Menka, Shivdasani, Anju, Makija and Arjun Shad. The lines are Krishan Rahi's. वतन जे लाइ जान घोरी, वतन जे लाइ जान घोरी, पोइ बि थोरी. वतन जे लाइ जान घोरी, तो बि थोरी. सिंधिन जान न घोरी, सिंधिन जान न घोरी, वतन घोरे आया.
Good evening, everyone. In English, these lines, as we translated them, were, "Even life is not enough sacrifice for land. Sindhis had to sacrifice their land for life." Today, as we honor the Sufi Sindhi mystics and saints, we will be focusing on Susheel Sarmast and Bhagat Kawaram. Dr. Hemlata Bagla has spoken of Susheel Sarmast. And the message of harmony, for me at least, is one of the most important messages that comes across in his work. Susheel, whose name means the intoxicated, he was a Sufi mystic poet born in 1739 and named Abdul Wahab Farooqi at birth. An orphaned child, he was brought up by his uncle and lived to the age of 90, composing poetry in several languages, including Sindhi, Saraiki, Persian, Punjabi, and Urdu. It is said that when he was a child, Shah Latif saw him and asked who he was. "The vessel I have put on the fire," said Latif, "its lid will be removed by him." I recently had the privilege and the pleasure of working with the Sahitya Akademi Award-winning writer Mohan Gehani on his translations of Susheel's work. Mr. Gehani calls himself an atheist, but such was the power of Susheel's poetry that he felt the need to translate this work. And he says that he did it as if he was in a trance. We're expecting this book to be published soon in a bilingual edition, and I'm happy to present a few verses here today in both Sindhi and English for the very first time. I would like to also clarify that these are not literal word-to-word translations, because that never works, but they aim at getting at the essence of the work. So may I request Susheel Gajwani to read the original Sindhi.
Susheel Sarmast फरमाइन था, "किनी नहीं नहर सां, किनी नीह नहर सां, किनी दबाया दरिया, किनी नीह नहर सां, किनी दबाया दरिया. साहिब ॾिनो जे साह, साहिब ॾिनो जे साह, सारो समुंड समायो, सारो समुंड समायो."
Some loved a stream, some gulped rivers. Sahib Dina, those denied the self, have the entire ocean within them.
That's really beautiful, Menka. I think it's amazing philosophy. Then Susheel Sarma Saab vari chawanta ta golha kari jinji. Golha kari jinji so tu paana ahi. Golha kari jinji so tu ahi paana पाण कना पासे कयो पाण कना पासे कयो तुंहिंजी तोखे ख़बर तुंहिंजी तोखे ॼाण पंहिंजो पाण सुञाण सचू तू त नाहीं आदमी.
It's so wonderful to hear it in the original, so thank you for that, Susheel Gajwani. English. Whom are you searching for that you really are? You have distanced yourself. Know thyself, Sachu. You are not a person.
Susheel Sarma Stakte Chavanta Mu Tu Hu Mu Tu Hu Ji Sari Boli Mu Tu Hu Ji Boli Sari Sahi Kare Sunani Mu Tu Hu Ji Boli Sari Sahi Kare Sunani Cha Huire Ut Cha Ahi Hit Sacha Cha Thinde Mama Pujani Sacha Cha Thinde Mama Pujani.
If you realize the truth of I, you, and he, what you were originally and what you are, Sacha, you will know the meaning of what you will be. Thank you. And now we'll move on to introducing briefly Bhagat Kanwaram, the Divine Protector.
Hindustan je virahange gapo after the partition of India. हर सिंधी कैंप में हिक कॉमन लेकिन दिल लुभाईंदड़ ॻाल्हि हुई. नेकी, दरिया दिली, भक्ति भाव, प्रेम ऐं संगीत सां पूरी तरह सराबोर, पूरी तरह समायल भगत कंवरराम जो रूहानी आवाज़ हर सिंधी कैंप में ग्रामोफोन रिकॉर्ड ते वॼंदो हो ऐं हर सिंधी जे दिल में श्रद्धा, हिम्मत ऐं हौसलो जगाईंदो हो. This is a fact. We all seen it. My parents and grandparents have told me, they must have told you too. Bhagat Kanwaram ji ruhaniyat, unan ji gaiki is beyond translation or understanding. His gaiki was, his singing was divine. And uha unan ji Sindhin lai vadi support uniyat thi wei. Sindhin kanai putte na dito. They never looked back into the past, never into the history. They looked forward to the future. They kept working to build that future.
But the real life heroes, who were they? Our parents and grandparents who suffered everything that partition brought them and came out triumphant. And we've seen so many examples of that today.
Yeah, we've seen so many examples today. We have Mr. Israni, we have Mr. Hiranandani, we have Mr. We have so many of them here. Why are they, our parents and grandparents and great-great-parents, they're real life heroes? They faced reality head on, took action, saw deeper meaning in life, and were the masters of improvisation, absolute masters of improvisation. As change and uncertainty escalated and spiraled into devastating partition, they turned into a resolute, straighthardy people developing a sense of resilience, a spirit of never say die. That spirit of never say die is what helped them build resilience in those tough partition times. With vision and resilience to see the hope through the hype, they did not look back. They never looked back. They built the future by working hard towards it. They were the real life heroes.
But it was the deep-rooted and soulful bhajans of Bhagat Kanwaram that gave them the strength to go through the travails of life in the refugee camps. Sant Bhagat Kawaram was born on 13th April 1885 in village Jarwar of Sakhar district. He was the son of Tirat Bhai and Tara Chand and a disciple of Sant Satram Das Sahib of Raharki. His voice was deeply soothing and divine and became a spiritual guide to the refugee community in those times of hardship and distress. Bhagat Kawaram would sing,
Nale alakhaje bedo tar munjo. Nale alakhaje bedo tar munjo. Nale dhaniye je bedo tar munjo.
"Oh dear God, help me cross the ocean of life. In the name of the Almighty God, help me sail through the turbulent ocean of life." And thousands of people would come from distant towns and villages to hear this great saint and listen to him through the night. And they would find it to be a very healing experience, because Bhagat Kawaram would sing in this godly voice, and it actually helped to heal the sick and the poor. And what would he do with all the money that the devotees gave him? He gave it right back to the needy and to the poor. And that is one of the things that made him so great, and that makes so many Sindhis so great even today.
In 1932, Mahatma Gandhi visited Sindh. हज़ारे माण्हू महात्मा गांधी के ॾिसण आया सखर में. Excitement हो, गोड़ हो, शोर हो, शराबो हो. As a result, there was a lot of commotion, and Mahatma Gandhi could not start his speech because of the noise there. Sakhar Panchayat had also invited Bhagat Kawaram. उन्हनि भगत कंवरराम साहब खे रिक्वेस्ट कई त हू स्टेज ते अची ॻाइनि. भगत साहब आया स्टेज ते, ॻाइणु शुरू कयूं. उन्हनि जे आवाज़ में जेका रूहानियत हुई, जेका तासीर हुई, जेका मैजिक हुई, जादू हुई, तंहिंजे करे सॼे हुजूम में, क्राउड में ख़ामोशी फैलिजी वई. There was pin drop silence. भगत कंवरराम जो भजन पूरो थियो, महात्मा गांधी स्टेज ते आया, ऐं पहिरीं ॻाल्हि जेका हुननि चई, which is in history books today, त भगत साहब जो आवाज़ रूहानी आहे ऐं उन जो असरु मूं ते तमामु गहरो थियो आहे, जेको बापू जी गांधी साहब उन चयो, गांधी जी चयो. That was the spiritual, godly, divine magic of our Bhagat Kawaram.
And yet, unfortunately, because violence is built into our systems, there were several attempts on Bhagat Sahib's life. Before martyring Bhagat Sahib, however, even the assassins needed his blessings. They were told that unless they had his blessings, their attempts would never be a success. And the omniscient Bhagat Kawaram Sahib blessed them, despite intuitively knowing their intentions. And unfortunately, on 1st November 1939, he was assassinated at Rook Station while sitting in the train.
I had some conversations with Sain Dheeraj Lal, the great-grandson of Bhagat Kawaram. He lives in Amravati. तो उन्होंने मुझे बुधायो तो सिंध में जने जने किथे ड्राउट यानी सूखाग्रस्त एरियाज़ हुंदा हुआ तो भगत कंवरराम खे उते इनवाइट कंदा सॾु कंदा ऐं भगत कंवरराम साहब राग मल्हार ॻाईंदा हुआ उते ऐं जीअं हू मल्हार ॻाईंदा हुआ त उते ज़ोरदार बरसाति थींदी हुई. That was his divine magic. When our parents and grandparents were pushed, the world pushed them to their knees, they turned it into a perfect position to pray. And what was the prayer? It was a divine prayer of Bhagat Kawaram. It says, Kawaram Sahab says, "Kiyan rijhaya tokhe, kiyan rijhaya. Kiyan rijhaya tokhe, kiyan parchaya. Das ko down, das ko down."
How do I coax you, cajole you? Tell me a way, give me a clue. Thank you very much for listening. I think music is one way to survive all the troubles and tribulations of life. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.